Welcome back to the Polarity Plunge YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about a huge topic in the world today, this topic of addiction and addiction recovery, and how Polarity Plunge is a resource for no matter what the addiction, no matter how big, how small, whatever substance, this is a resource for recovery. And I'm not just talking about addiction in the sense of drugs and alcohol, even though that is very prevalent today. There's the hard drugs, right, of heroin, meth, there's alcohol, there's cannabis, there's a lot of substance abuse and addiction in the world today. Polarity Plunge helps with that immensely, and we're going to get to it. But also these addictions that we suffer with that are more just the day-to-day addictions. They could be food, they could be bad food, or just a lot of food, overeating. That could be an addiction. It could be TV and entertainment. Social media is probably the most potent drug of our day and age, is our phones, is this distraction, this impulse pulling out our phones, scrolling, doom scrolling on social media. This is a huge addiction of our day. And you can really put in anything. There's things that have an ability to entrap us, enslave us, become automatic, become something that we cannot stop by our own free will and choice. And Polarity Plunge and contrast therapy specifically has a way of helping you break free of whatever addiction you may be facing, whatever thing that might be entrapping you in its clutches that you feel like is just automatic, is just taking away from your ability to choose. And we're going to get to the science of it all as well. So I want you to think of something that you specifically have struggled with, being addicted to, and if you don't want to use a term so harsh, just something that has impeded your progress, something that you're trying to stop, you're trying to release, you're trying to let go of, bad habit, if that's a better term for you. The one that I'm going to choose is caffeine, because I have been addicted to caffeine through various periods throughout my life. I've been addicted to caffeine. I used to work a job where it was the norm to be very addicted to caffeine, to the point where some of the guys that I was working with would get heart palpitations and really serious health conditions because of their consumption of caffeine. So that's the one that I'm going to choose. I'm not super addicted to it right now. Sometimes I get really bad sleep just with my schedule, and I will say that I rely on it occasionally, but it's not a consistent and constant thing. Still, I recognize its pull in my life. I recognize that even though I'm not addicted right now to it, it still has this pull. And a lot of people who have suffered with addiction and are in addiction recovery in their sobriety talk about this. They talk about how even though they're clean, they still feel a pull or a dark looming shadow over them of whatever their addiction was, whatever substance it was, whatever thing was enslaving their agency. So before I get into how contrast therapy helps with addiction, I wanted to talk about a very basic understanding of what's happening during addiction. And obviously this is a very complex topic. There's a lot of components that come in to addiction. There's a lot of past trauma and wounding, emotional, psychological wounding. There's a lot of environmental factors. There's a lot of just being drawn to a certain thing or exposure to a certain thing. But I just wanted to talk about not specifically the things in which we are addicted to, but what's happening in the brain with any addiction. So your addiction specifically that you're thinking of, or your bad habit. Neurochemically, what's happening in the brain when we're suffering with an addiction or a bad habit, we have a neurochemical called dopamine in our brain. And this neurochemical is said to be the one that is responsible for our drive and motivation. And when we're releasing dopamine, it feels really good. It feels like we're in pursuit of something, we're driving, we're motivated, we're essentially chasing something that is enjoyable. So dopamine is a very common neurochemical, even in extreme sports, in your hobbies. They could be. It's this dopamine that we chase because it is the neurochemical for drive and motivation. Now our brain's always producing dopamine, and because of that we have a baseline of dopamine. Now a normal baseline is what you're used to, your level of dopamine, and that depends on nature and nurture, predisposition, but also how you were raised, of where your dopamine would be at. Now what substances do is they raise, consistent substance use, they raise your baseline of dopamine. So the reason why addiction can get out of hand, substances can get out of hand, social media can get out of hand and become something that we're just magnetized to and we can't stop, is because when our dopamine baseline raises, we need to fulfill and match that baseline. We need to rise back to that baseline. We need to get, as some of you may have heard, dopamine hits. We need to get a hit so that we can come back to this baseline each and every time. And that's why when people in addiction can relate, crash, that feels so horrible on an emotional level, but also on a neurochemical level, because you have no dopamine. You're dopamine deficient. And so what draws you to, again, take that pill, again, go out for drinks, again, get on your phone, is you're trying to get back to fill that dopamine baseline, to match where you're used to, where your brain is used to. So you can see this in a very extreme example with drugs, where you tried a drug, let's say heroin, and you're up here, you're hitting that dopamine, you're chasing it, and it feels great, it's flooding your brain with a lot of other things in your body, but once it wears off, you're back down here and you feel that itch, like, oh, I need to get back to where I feel good, I feel all this dopamine. But once you hit it, it's ironic that a lot of the times you feel empty. After you feel empty, you feel like, why did I do this? Why did I just do, and I don't have experience with hardcore drugs, but why did I do this? Why did I spend 2 hours on my phone? That is the hardcore drug, right? That's the most hardcore drug. Why did I spend 2 hours? I feel so empty. That wasn't worth it. But it was because my brain was driven, it was motivated to match that dopamine baseline. So through consistent use of your phone, drugs, alcohol, food, anything you can be addicted to, your dopamine is going to raise and the baseline is going to be set. Where it used to be here, now it's here. So now you've got to do even more, and you've got to do it even more frequently to fulfill your dopamine need. Now, how does this relate to contrast therapy and to polarity plunge? I want to talk about how saunas can help with addiction recovery, and I want to talk about how cold plunge can help with addiction recovery, with now that we know the dopamine that we're trying to fulfill. But first, pulling it back and talking about saunas. Sauna, biggest thing that you're looking for in a sauna is to sweat. And the reason why you want to sweat in a sauna is because it is detoxing you, especially infrared saunas, which is the saunas that I swear by, saunas that we have here at Polarity Plunge, will detox, because the infrared technology isn't just heating up the air around you, like I've said before, but it's heating you up internally. It's sending infrared waves into your body, so heating up your body first, rather than just the air. For that reason, it doesn't need to get as hot, but it gets as deep, or if not deeper, into your detox. Whenever you're suffering with addiction of any substances, drugs or alcohol, even food, a lot of sugar is a substance, a lot of bad food in our system, we are taking in toxins, we're taking in impurities that don't just get released through going to the bathroom, but they actually get into, a lot of times, our bloodstream, into our heart, into our organs. And the infrared technology allows a deeper detox, where the studies show it's not just letting us sweat and detox on the skin level, but it's detoxing us, or on the water level, the sweat level, or on the blood level, it's detoxing us on the organ level. It's actually sending that infrared technology into our organs, into our bloodstream, into our heart, and helping us not just get a cardiovascular workout by sweating and sitting in the sauna, but also detoxing all the impurities, all of the toxins that can be trapped through the food we consume, through the bad food we consume, through drugs, through alcohol, anything, and the most common form of addiction recovery. So saunas are going to allow you, if you can sit in a sauna once, twice a week for an extended period of time, it's going to allow you to reset your body, detox your body from all of the abuse and use of drugs and alcohol and other substances that you've put into it. And it's not just going to be able to reset the body, but it also, as I've talked about, resets the mind. When you're able to sit in the sauna for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, not doing anything, you're confronted with your thoughts. You're confronted with your emotions. And a lot of the emotions, we've talked on past YouTube videos about somatic therapy and how the body keeps a score and how the emotions get trapped in the body and the thoughts that we're not even aware of because we have a lack of presence. The sauna is going to give us an opportunity to detox the body and also detox the mind by sitting there, letting those thoughts, letting those emotions play out, and being okay with being with ourselves, sitting with ourselves, and detox on even that mental, emotional level. So the sauna, we've talked about this on past YouTube videos, but the sauna superpower is detoxing. And the infrared sauna is even on the cellular level. There's been studies that have shown it's not just your skin level, your organ level, your heart level, but it's actually triggering autophagy, which autophagy is the cleanup of dead cells sent by other live red blood cells, goes through your body and cleans up all your dead cells. Infrared technology does this, and there's nothing better for you when you've struggled with addiction, with substance abuse and use in the past. Those cellular levels, those organ levels, the heart level, the bloodstream, the body needs this detox, which the sauna is going to give you, and also the mind. So that's a huge thing for addiction recovery, and actually one of the reasons why I started Polarity Plunge, some of the other work that I do in men's work, in my men's community, and just in general, is helping people overcome addiction recovery. Now, where is the cold plunge benefit with addiction recovery? Now, they've done studies, dopamine studies, on the cold plunge, what's happening neurochemically in your brain when you're getting in a cold plunge. They've also done those studies with addiction. And with a comparison to give you, with cocaine will spike your dopamine 2 times the baseline. So if it's here, it's going to double your baseline. And that's why it feels with cocaine like you need it again and again and again and again, because you need to reach that dopamine. And a lot of prescription drugs do the same thing. Adderall and other drugs will spike your dopamine in ways where you become very reliant on it and you need it. It's something that you can't live without, you can't focus without, or it's just a desire, a craving that you have so immensely. So cocaine is going to spike your dopamine twice the baseline of what it normally is. A cold plunge spikes your dopamine 2.5 times its baseline. So if you're used to having your baseline here, you're trying cocaine or whatever drug, it's going to put you higher. Now, cold plunge is going to increase even that so that you can level out your baseline. And the reason why it levels it out is because it's transient. It's not something that, in other words, is going to spike and crash like a lot of substances do for our brains. But neurochemically what's going on is you're spiking your dopamine, and then it's actually lasting and fading out throughout your day. It's not something that once the high is over, you're gonna crash. It gradually fades out and into your day so that you can have that drive, motivation, the dopamine essence of pursuit of your goals, of your vision, of the tasks you have to do today. They're going to last throughout the day, and it can actually transfer. Your dopamine, once you spike it in a cold plunge, can transfer into your day-to-day activity. And this is why it's such a trend right now. This is why so many people are swearing by it, because it's not necessarily about the cold plunge in and of itself, but it's how they feel the rest of the day. It's how they feel every week when they have a consistent 2-time-a-week routine. Check out our memberships. 2 times a week routine, because they just feel naturally driven. They feel naturally motivated. Cold plunge is one of the most effective ways of natural dopamine. For addiction recovery, for even not just substances, but even your phone or pornography, which is a huge addiction. Pornography is so addicting because it's rewiring your brain, increasing that dopamine baseline, not only of the biological need for it, but also it's incorporating a lot of emotion and sexual desire, which is causing a distortion of love and what love truly is. And so that's why it's such a prevalent addiction in today, and there's so many businesses around that, around sex and around pornography. So if you're struggling with that addiction, or if you're struggling with the addiction of just your phone and doom scrolling, then getting in a cold plunge, detoxing in the sauna and then getting in a cold plunge is going to reset your levels of norepinephrine, of endorphins, of dopamine, which is why you're addicted to whatever you're addicted to. Your addiction is not about the substance or the thing. It's about this unmet need, this unmet desire within you. There's a void, and you are using whatever, drugs, alcohol, weed, pornography, social media, food, you're using whatever to fill that void. But the solution isn't to attack the actual thing. The solution is to get actually some real clarity on what is that void, what is that need, or what is that wound that is causing that void. And that is a lot of what I do in the men's community is finding the void. But if you want to just something that will band-aid over, solve essentially on the behavior aspect, not necessarily the thoughts, emotions, but the behavioral aspect, you want to stop doing this behavior that causes so much grief in my life, so much pain, and I want to start doing a behavior that actually helps me and serves me, then replace the fake dopamine of your addiction with the natural dopamine of a cold plunge. Jumping in a cold plunge for 2 minutes is going to spike your dopamine 2.5 times your baseline. And that spike isn't going to be a crash, but it's going to be a spike and then a transient leveling out throughout your day, so that dopamine is transferable to complete all of your tasks and all of your goals that you have throughout the day. Enough said. That's a huge, huge mic drop and a huge piece of information that I feel like the world needs, especially as you're trying to progress in your life, as you're trying to stop doing the things that are self-sabotage or that are addictive, so that you can actually be in control and in charge of your life. This is something that is so simple, that is so impactful, that you can replace whatever you're struggling with a natural sense of dopamine and feel so much better physically, mentally, and I'll add spiritually as well. So this is a quick little video about how contrast therapy and how addiction recovery go together. How contrast therapy can help addiction recoverers in their day-to-day life. If you have any questions or you want to go deeper, please like and subscribe. Also comment on this video or comment on this post wherever you found this video. if you are struggling with an addictive behavior or a bad habit, please come in and visit us at Polarity Plunge. We can jam about this even longer, and we can tailor your sessions to whatever you're struggling with. If you know somebody who is struggling with addiction, especially the intense addictions, and they've tried rehab and they've tried therapy and they've tried prescription medication and they're still suffering with addiction, there is more answers out there. Polarity Plunge is an answer for those struggling with addiction. So please send them my way, send them my details, send them where we're at, have them come in. Consistent contrast therapy practice is going to be one of the biggest things that combats your addiction, no matter what the addiction is. I've seen it in my life, I've seen it in the lives of people that have come in and past addicts that I've worked with and that have experienced this. And there's only one way to know it and to see it, and it's to experience it for yourself. So much love, and keep smiling.